Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll make another entry here based on your suggestions. This one has been suggested for quite some time now, and I just finally was able to get around to it. So it goes to show that anything that you've suggested in the past, if I haven't talked about it yet, give it a chance, keep trying it several times, and then eventually I'll get around to it. And this one has to do with a pretty interesting cryptid, and on the basis that it's located here in the US throughout multiple states, including apparently here in Texas. So it'll be fascinating to see at the end if anyone has any known locations here in Texas where this thing is. As far as it being like a cryptid, it's strange. It seems to be actually more along the lines like a real life animal of nature. It just happens to be a branch, like an animal that branched out from more well-known animals. So it's not like, let's say, like your average cryptid that has crazy skin and multiple eyes, multiple appendages. No, nothing like that. This is in all actuality just a real life animal. It just happens to be a very mysterious one, and if the rumors are true, it happens to be one that is pretty rare to find to this day. And I'm talking about the cryptid known as the Ozark Howler, which you'll see a picture of here. What you're looking at, and again it recalls what I just mentioned, it's basically just a big cat. Like it's a giant variation of a cougar of some sort, or it could actually be a variation of a puma as well, or a mountain lion. It's just very easily one of those three types of creatures. It's its own branch of creature as well. And where it's found, it reportedly has vast areas that it covers as its territory. Its main area is Arkansas. That's why it's called the Ozark Howler, because it's located in the Ozark Mountains. That seems to be its most predominant area. But in other states, it apparently has either other types of it as well in Missouri, also Oklahoma, and then also here in Texas. So very far-reaching animal of sorts, and it utilizes the mountains, the forests, the vast acres, who knows, hundreds of acres of trees as its home, and that's how it's able to stay so rare when it comes to sightings, footage, of course anything involving captures, nothing at all along those lines, because within that wilderness it basically can live on its own and practically live untouched for this time, for a very long time period. As far as how long it's been known, I tried to see if what the earliest known instance was of an encounter. None that I could see, but presumably it's been around for quite some time. It's only here though in the 20th century and then to the 21st century that there has been more reports about it, including apparently some physical evidence, which I'll showcase a picture of here in a minute. But let's talk about first about what it looks like. As I mentioned at the very beginning, basically it's a big cat. It's a gigantic cat of some sort. It's either the size of a cougar, it's either the size of a puma, but based on other eyewitness descriptions, it's even bigger than that. It could be the largest known feline species to this date, even larger than, let's say, some of those gigantic tigers that some people see in zoos and displayed in other parts of the world. And in some cases it has even more features than your traditional cat, because it tends to have either like a real shaggy like hair. Who knows if that's just an adaptation of its environment. In other cases it seems to be very well muscled, like people have described it as having like humongous legs, just pure muscle, just pure power that's permeating from this creature. And then perhaps its most distinct features is, in some cases people report as it having some kind of glowing eyes, and in other cases horns protruding from the back of its head. So if it truly has both those items, then that definitely takes it to a whole other realm as opposed to some of the other modern day large cats that we know of. And then as far as its color, everyone though seems to agree that it has a very dark color, either like a dark brown, dark gray, or in some cases just outright black altogether. And this actually makes people believe that it could actually be a descendant or variation of those black dogs, the ones that I've talked about before in one of my other videos, the devil hound or the hellhound that are found in Europe. Instead of it being, let's say, a dog, in this case it's more along the lines of a cat, especially when people say the thing about its glowing eyes. It seems to remind people about that, and it could actually be a variation of that as well. Now, where it's found again, I mentioned earlier, it's in Arkansas. If you want it to be even more specific in Arkansas, because that tends to be its main location, you have to go to a place called the Pedestal Rocks, and I've included a picture of them here. They look very beautiful. It looks like these are rocks that are created just 100% by nature, almost like a work of art of some sort. Just who knows how many millions of years it took, but either the changing landscape or what used to be rivers there that are now dried up created these rock formations, and the bizarre nature of these formations seems to be added on with these sightings associated with this Ozark Howler. So if you're near Arkansas, and in particular you're near these pedestal rocks, then you're said to be near these Ozark Howlers as well. Further adding to this and knowing that you're near them is the reason why it's called the Ozark Howler is because of the growl or because of the yell or whatever howl it does that is very, very distinctive. It's not like anything else, like let's say a tiger, or the way it growls or screams, or the way let's say a cougar does. No. In this case, the Ozark Howler, those who have heard its cry, seem to describe it as a combination of a wolf, yes, like a wolf's howl, with an elk's bugle. I guess the bugle is how the elk, like the official word for the sound an elk makes. So if you combine those two together, then you have the distinct sound, or supposed sound, of the Ozark Howler itself. So if you hear that as well, let's say you're near those areas, and you hear that, then you know for certain that you have an Ozark Howler nearby. Now, as far as encounters, the good thing is nobody has any very horrible story or anything involving like a frightening story at all of this thing chasing people, attacking them, causing damage. No, if anything, this particular creature seems to be very secluded. It purposely stays away from anything involving tourists or people that live in and around those areas. No, this thing, most likely if it sees like a human of some sort, it just scatters around because it doesn't want to be around them at all. So anything as far as instances of footage or eyewitnesses, those are so rare, but I'll describe some of them here. You have to go just a couple of years back. It seems like 2005 and 2010. That's when it had some of the largest encounters of experiences. One of them stands out. It had to do with a family that lived in the Boston mountains of Crawford County. And what they had done there is they set up these trail cameras. I'll use one as an example here. I think these trail cameras, someone let me know if they have any more information that I'm saying wrong, but trail cameras seem to be just basic cameras that are set up and left to see what people can find. Like, let's say they're hunting for some kind of elk, some kind of deer, or they're using it for other purposes. They leave it there and then they can see what's going on. And so on one part, this family, they left a camera somewhere around that area of Crawford County, and they believe they saw something involving a cougar. Now, I tried to see what those images were, because those images were apparently supplied to the local television station there in their area. They wanted to showcase to the world, hey, look what our cameras saw, look what our trail cameras saw, and they showed it. And so I tried to find it, and I think this is it. If anyone knows if they actually had a different set of images, please let me know. But even then, if this is it, this is not as good as can be. I mean, this is a very faint image outline. It's something that clearly shows what could be something as far as a cougar of some sort, but the detail is so horrible on it that it's very hard to tell altogether. So if anyone knows any more of those images that the family supplied to that television station, post the link below, and then that way it can be shared. I tried to see on the internet if those images were popping up anywhere. I thought they would be, but no. Apparently, they're pretty well hidden. So if someone has those, and the ones that I just showed are not it, then it'd be fascinating to hear. That seems to be the only conclusive evidence, really, as far as like an actual image. Everything else that you've seen thus far is just imagination, like people drawing based on what eyewitnesses have reported, or people taking more like fan art and creating their own of the Ozark Howler. As far as an official stance from any government institution or government department as to what the Ozark Howler is and whether it exists, the wildlife officials there in Arkansas have stated that they pretty much state that it could just be just a large individual cat of some sort that somehow got loose. They claim that maybe it was a cougar or some kind of puma that for whatever reason was once owned as a pet by some people there, and it either escaped or it was let loose by the owners. Makes sense, because obviously you wouldn't have something like this for too long as a pet, considering the dangerous nature of a cougar or a puma. And then it just incorporated itself within the environment there, and that's what people see too these days. But that's about it. That's their only stance as far as of what these things could be. They're not taking any other side as far as anything involving cryptids or some other morphing of what these things are. Others have stated that it could actually be, let's say, a new breed of some sort. Whatever was let loose might have crossbred with your average cat or your average puma, and when that happens, these are the results here. Others state that it could be something else entirely different, something more paranormal, like I was mentioning earlier as far as the hellhound and the devil dog. That this thing with the glowing eyes and the horns, it could be its own variation of like a hell cat of some sort. Also, people have noted that there has just been strange sounds tied to this creature. I mentioned earlier about the about the noise that it makes, how it's a combination of the wolf's howl and then an elk's bugle, but others have mentioned a variation of it where they hear like a laugh, like a creepy laugh of some sort, like the kind associated with like a hyena, or the bark of a hyena altogether. And whenever they hear that, that's when they see something as far as the distance, what they call a quote-unquote stocky cat, and that's where they think themselves, I have seen something as far as the Ozark Howler, like this is it, this is the real thing. Now, as far as anything as involving hoaxes, there is actually the chance that everything tied to the Ozark Howler could be a hoax, and the reason for it is as follows. Apparently there was a gentleman or a lady, I don't know, but there was someone that the gentleman, a cryptozoologist by the name of Chad Arment, said he was contacted by. According to him, he received a whole bunch of email messages that made claims about the Ozark Howler, including purported evidence. And this Chad Arment, who is a cryptozoologist, was making a book at the time called Cryptozoology. And so when he received this, he started to do a little bit more research because he wanted to make sure that nobody was pulling his leg. And so when he did this, he found out that a whole bunch of this evidence, and it might even be evidence that stretched out into the internet and was basically was turning into a bunch of quote-unquote true claims now. A lot of this evidence came from a university student who had apparently made a bet. I don't know if he made a bet with other students there or with people outside the university, but this guy, Chad Arment, found out that this university student made a bet to try to fool those that are within the cryptozoology research community, and they wanted to see how far this particular hoax could get. But the only interesting thing about this is the Ozark Howler and the story surrounding the Ozark Howler actually came before this university student started his hoax. So as far as the purported hoax, no doubt it did add to some of the claims that people state today are real. But as far as evidence pertaining to the Ozark Howler, it actually preceded the university student hoax itself. So it makes you think, okay, there actually is some credence to this. In fact, it's so much so that the Sci-Fi Channel had a show called Haunted Highway where they focused an episode on the Ozark Howler. They didn't really capture anything that stands out. There was apparently one part where they thought they caught something on thermal imagery that looked like the Howler itself, and they thought that, this is it. This is the actual smoking gun evidence that we need. But upon further examination, it was identified as something along the lines of raccoon or a possum, so that was thrown out. But apparently they did capture evidence of a paw print, which they took to a wildlife biologist, and the wildlife biologist said that it was too big to be left by the bobcats that permeate that area, so it could have been something else altogether, either a puma or a cougar, or in this case the Ozark Howler itself. So there is some evidence to that part, but nothing really concrete. So that's it, the Ozark Howler. What do you guys think? A cryptid that could not even be a cryptid. Again, it could just be, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, just something that exists as another part of this animal world, just a loose variation of the more standard larger cats. Or it could be something else altogether, something more paranormal. Who knows? But if anyone has any more information, especially as I mentioned earlier, as far as any known images, perhaps of that trail cam, or anything else as far as other known sightings, maybe here in Texas, for example. I tried to see where the locations here in Texas happen to be, but I didn't really see any. So if anyone has that information too, it'd be great to hear. And if anyone has any information from others, maybe they've experienced it themselves, that'd be great to hear too. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.